Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to take part at this opening roundtable. The title and the topics suggests very openly that the culture, taken in its broader sense as a production of new aesthetics, values, and contents, and as a way of life, could and should contribute to the transformation of society and to renew the European project. I would like to be honest and sincere. I'm simply not sure, and certainly not confident, how exactly, facing the severity of European crisis, culture can do this. Is culture really such a powerful force that can help to solve the conflicts, help to bridge the conceptual disagreements we see among European politicians and other economists, and so on, and being able to neutralize powerful financial interests we see today in a phase of financial crisis that has so deeply struck some countries and European financial and banking and monetary system. Is really culture such a powerful force? The answer may be ambiguous. At this time, in point, at the level I know about these processes, could not claim either way. But I'm more pessimistic than optimistic. There is still plenty of time for optimists. I'm sure that optimists outweigh the pessimists worldwide, so we can be happy about that. What can I say is that no one can really control the consequences of his or her own actions. And this, believe me, I know this very good, this particularly applies for governments. We observe how the discussion on possible solutions and reasons to the debt crisis has not only divided political leaders in Europe and theoreticians and so on, but also Europeans on the issue who is responsible for what is happening or for wrongdoings and so on. It's not actually so seldom to observe in media or elsewhere the discourse that actually tries to put the blame for this crisis into national and cultural differences. It is quite commonly, not too commonly, but it is quite often described that the reason for the crisis are basically lazy Greeks who are not working enough, who are prone to spending, not earning, and we are also Mediterranean, and the South is rather more hedonistic, not so impregnated by Protestant ethics and so on. But others are, from other point of view, you can see, of course, that there is an argument what all these, let's say, Protestant countries are actually trying to help us by extracting profits from us and so on and so on. So basically, it is that this culture, that these problems that have appeared with the European project, with all these crises, are transforming, are inscribed in cultural differences, and these cultural differences are tending to turn into prejudices and to the war, in quotation, of culture. This, I see, is very dangerous trend, and I think that we should really work on this, not to transform the economic crisis into a crisis of our culture and societies. And how to do this? It's simply the question which needs much more attention as it has today. I think at the end I will try to show that maybe what Sostenuto is doing and many other projects that have been described by colleagues are proper way to build a society on different grounds and not to be lazy, so to speak, about all this. So this is one point I see as a problem, that not the culture can only help to solve the problem, but it can be the problem by itself. So when the conflict, when the crisis transformed into cultural terms. There is another very important dimension of the present crisis, of the European project. I'm not going to explain at large, that after the fall of the Iron Curtain and the years of democratic transition in those countries that followed, new member states have joined the European Union in 2004 and 2007, along with Cyprus, Malta, and so on and so on. Additionally, we had a strong process of financial integration by introducing the euro, of legal integration by issuing a so-called unified, arrest warrant. This is very important, and let's say with the Schengen agreement and so on. So this is So by the mid of the 2000 of the first decade of the new century, it looks like that we are very close to the vision of Europe we would like to have. Europe has become broader, larger. Europe has more integrated. Europe had a common money, and so on and so on. So that is very good. We could characterize this project altogether as a sort of the fulfillment of the European political project. Every citizen of the continent, never mind that few countries are still missing, but should have equal rights and opportunities to shape and live his or her own life on his or her own way. The borders and different circumstances and particularities should not prevent them in doing so. So this was a very promising perspective at that time. But based on my experiences in Slovenian politics, I would claim and I would say that even though formal and institutional process of the enlargement is completed for a number of countries, though, as I said, some are still in a waiting room, citizens and even European institutions have not internally adopted, consummated the changes and made themselves comfortable with these changes, with this larger Europe, with more nations, more integration, and so on and so on and so on. We can observe again that very little has changed in past 7 years among the people on both sides of the border between Italy and Slovenia, not to speak about the Slovenia and Hungary, which has been traditionally close. Yes, there are signs of change, but I think there will be a long time that we will see that actually this idea of border as an institutional limit has actually disappeared. Why has this happened? Somehow enlargement remains an incompleted project on a halfway, and to some extent also by this incompleteness is threatened by present economic and financial crisis. Indeed, if we see at the European Union today, we have a full normative and institutional integration. That's true. If you are not doing according to the European law in some areas, let's say environment, waste management, they would fine you if you are not fulfilling the standards and so on and so on. But again, we have still segmented labor market integration. Again, many people from countries, European countries, cannot go into other countries, and so on. And we have indeed an incompleted societal and cultural integration. Here I see the opportunity for cultural practices and forms to go on renewing and revitalizing the European project at the levels of still incomplete integration. This is on societal, on level of civil society, and cultural level. This can be done through the webs and networks, through the exchange of the experiences and practices to form slowly but constantly a solid web of various sorts, uncounted social and cultural bonds that cannot be easily broken by economic and political turbulences. In my view, so-called state level, I was also asked by the organizers to say something about state level. I can say only one about the state level. That state level can do very little for that. And the best thing is not to interfere in such processes. I'm also a sociologist, urban sociologist, and I see particularly that the cities and urban territories can play a pivotal role in building societal and cultural integration, simply because the cities always played such a role if they were only allowed to and not prevented by the high national state walls of the 20th century. The productive role of the cities in building maybe new ways of societal and cultural integration is even more important if we realize that today urban politics, after decades of so-called neoliberal urbanism, maybe justified or unjustified, claimed as neoliberal is another question. After decades of such a politics, urbanism faces a new challenges. From the perspective of current economic crisis, cities and urban regions cannot be regarded only as a growth machine, as a set of infrastructure, culture, and other institutions that actually only produces a growth and making a convenient space and for all sorts of land speculations and appropriation of public space. We can see a lot of this throughout the cities of Europe, but of course we cannot make some sort of generalization to court, so to speak. Taking, for example, for the capital of Slovenia, city of Ljubljana and its region, financial crisis has forced developers to stop or even abandon some of the building projects and new constructions. Some of the land that have been devoted for such projects and many building sites and areas designed for constructions stay empty and idle. Here is the opportunity to reclaim the idle land and buildings to alternative uses and to reclaim public space for even for a limited period of time in some cases. And I'm convinced, I'm not speaking about the, let's say, violent actions and so on, but I'm speaking about the redefinition of the sense, of the meanings, of the facts that, that even the developers today see nonsense of their own projects at a certain level. Not all, but some of them I have experienced they do. And I see that I'm convinced that some projects of such sort will never be completed for a time being. And here indeed is a unique opportunity to act quickly and deliver an alternative or substitute image of the city that would take more into consideration specific needs of the urban dwellers and involve them into participation process. As it might look paradoxically, financial crisis has stopped some established commercial and building practices in our cities. Not all of these practices were good. Some of them have contributed enormously to our cities. Some of them they didn't, and probably they wouldn't. And from this point of view, it is also crisis is also an opportunity, and I really do hate to say that, because I cannot see what, how for a person who lost his job, the crisis can be an opportunity. But nevertheless, from this point of view, I presented here all the recipes in urban politics, and planning do not work anymore. And here is a time for innovation. As we all know, as has been said before by my by speakers here, innovation happens if cultural diversity is brought closer. And that's our opportunity. Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.